Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where for once this year, things went the way Hollywood had hoped they would. Not to say there haven't been successes this year, but they've always been surprises. You know, you're supposed to know your business, right? And I think that this year, a lot of the powers that be in Hollywood have been wondering if they still understand audiences. I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on that, and we're going to discuss that. Because, it's a mixed bag. But I think that what was particularly scary about Wicked for Good was when the Rotten Tomatoes score dropped on Tuesday. And it hasn't budged. It's still down there. Woo! But thankfully, the audience scores are superb, and we're going to talk a lot about Wicked for sure. But even though this went the way Hollywood hoped it would, as I said, things are changing. I think it's exciting. It's, especially because, no matter what happens, we're going to have a good time. All right, so Wicked for Good and its predecessor are heavily female-driven blockbusters, but they're not from Disney, and they're based on a Broadway musical. Yes, while Hollywood is all about IP these days, they've had a really hard time cracking Broadway, bringing those hits to the silver screen. There hasn't been a really big hit since Chicago and the Mamma Mia movies, and they were never this big. And quite a few flopperoonies. Cats. All right, and that had Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift, she doesn't care. Taylor Swift, I think, is genuinely, she seems nice to me. She kind of should reach out to Ariana. I'm just saying. She's not part of Ariana's, they're not in the same circles, but she should reach out. All right, so anyway. Musicals to movies used to be a really big thing for Hollywood. Back in the day, some really big hits. Although, like Wicked, those Broadway shows or West End shows, wherever they played, were very lavish, while wedding cake productions that translated into wedding cake movies. But for a few decades now, original Broadway productions have been much more serious and scaled down, with the bigger, more lavish productions being adaptations of movies. It's going in the other direction, man. It's supposed to be a two-way street. Now, on that note, I think we're all wondering when they're going to do a proper film adaptation of Hamilton and not just a film stage performance, although Disney sure has gotten a lot out of that. I think they could still do it. Lin-Manuel Miranda, when they were like, who's the cowardly lion? It was Lin-Manuel Miranda was next to James Corden. That's not a good sign. But, if they do a Hamilton, do you think Lin-Manuel Miranda should star? Or do you think since everyone's already seen that production so many times, a good way to get people more interested in it again would be to switch up the cast? Fascinating. Who would you cast? All right, then as for smaller shows, I do really think that Oh Mary and Maybe Happy Ending, so good, would be very successful films if done right, and their budgets would be lower. And where the heck is Warner Brothers' adaptation of the sequel Harry Potter and the Cursed Child with the original movie cast? All right, so anyway, put your producer hat on, and especially those of you who are Broadway and movie fans, what do you think could maybe have the same success as Wicked? But a lot of credit goes to director John Chu, who tapped into his inner Glinda to deliver the perfect package. And as much as Glinda is about pink, our friends at Factor are about protein in new and exciting ways. Wait until you hear about this. So they've just updated their weekly menu, doubling their high-protein meals, featuring customer favorites, beef fillet, turkey, shredded beef, and meatballs. Meatballs are delicious, but if you don't think so, no problem, because now Factor will let you switch the protein in any meal for a protein that you do like at no additional cost. High-protein meals are fantastic for building muscle and being able to lose weight. Maybe you want to fight inflammation. Well, then you want to go with salmon. And you know what? Factor just doubled their seafood meals as well. Yes, as we learn more about what food can do for us, Factor takes that information to make your food work for you. And their menu is now healthier than ever. I can't tell you how great it is when my schedule is jam-packed, and when does it ever get more jam-packed than the holiday season, to be able to pop in the microwave a healthy meal that I can be excited about, because it's not just tailored to my health preferences, but my taste preferences as well. And it's ready in just 2 minutes. Take a look yourself. I'm going to send you over to the website with a deal. So head to factor75.com or click the link right down below and use code BTTFB50 to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast and a healthy breakfast too. It is so hard to have a healthy breakfast, and you'll get that for 1 year. So that's code BTTFB50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first Factor box plus free breakfast for a year. And thanks to Factor for sponsoring this episode of Movie Math. All right, so now that Wicked for Good has hit theaters, there are 3 burning questions to consider. 1, will it make $1 billion at the box office? 2, now that we're seeing that Rotten Tomatoes score, the audience reaction, and the box office, does that have any effect on its Oscar chances? And then 3, what does this mean for Hollywood? I'm going to answer all 3 of those questions right now. But of course, as always, I'm excited to hear your thoughts on them down below. All right, let's discuss. As for the $1 billion question, Wicked for Good might not be the biggest opening of the year. Despite the biggest pre-sales, it's a little lower than Minecraft, a little lower than Barbie. But hey, it's right around where Lilo and Stitch opened, and that did make $1 billion. Minecraft didn't. And it's also close to Moana 2's 3-day, and that went on to make $1 billion. Don't worry, we're going to break down the box office, international is a big question mark. But I think an even bigger question mark for Wicked for Good is that it's such a different movie than the first one, a much darker, more serious film. And it doesn't quite have the same fun factor. I know a lot of you really like the songs, but I think all of you would admit it's not the Avengers lineup of songs that is the first film. So I'm not so sure about the rewatchability factor. I'd be very curious to know how many times you think you're going to see Wicked for Good in theaters now that you have seen it. On my review, one of you left a comment saying that you saw the first movie 11 times in theaters. Wow, Wicked is so lucky to have fans like you. But with this one, you said that you weren't sure you would even go twice to see it in theaters. Because I said the same thing. I wasn't sure I would go back and watch it again. And I saw the first one 3 times in theaters, 2 times paying for it. The first was the press screening. But sure enough, even though my dad was hesitant because he thought this film looked so much more serious, he decided he really wanted to go and see it in theater. So I managed to get us some tickets. He loved it, by the way. He said it was a very special film. He was surprised at how good it was. He really, really liked it. He thought it had really important things to say. He liked the darker, more serious tone. And he actually said he would see it again. He went to the rest of my family and he was like, anyone else want to see Wicked again? I'll go with you. Isn't that great? And I have to say, I enjoyed the film more the second time because I was no longer suffering whiplash from it being so different than the first film. Again, I'm not a fan of I've not seen the Broadway show, so I wasn't prepared for that. And going again, I could just enjoy Wicked for Good for what it is. And also seeing it with an audience full of fans is really a lot of fun. Strong recommend on that experience. And I think you can probably have that experience through the next weekend. Still, I do think that, again, I think there's a chance it's not going to do quite as well as the first film because I think people will see it multiple times, but not quite as many times as they saw the first one. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts down below as to how many times you think you'll see it. And while Wicked for Good is ahead of the first film, both domestically and worldwide, I think because it's a sequel, it might be very front loaded. People who maybe waited to see the first one now know they like it and rushed out to see it opening weekend. But, look at Frozen, which is basically Disney's version of Wicked, down to Idina Menzel. Everyone agrees the second film isn't as good as the first one, and it's much darker. I mean, I couldn't believe they tried to kill off Olaf. Yet it still made $1 billion. I think we won't really know what Wicked for Good's box office prospects are until we see how it performs Thanksgiving weekend. This is a big test. It's a biggie. It goes up against Zootopia 2. And last year, of course, Wicked went up against Moana 2. Disney owns Thanksgiving, which is why Wicked and Hunger Games and stuff always drop the weekend before. So last year, Wicked fell just 28% for its 3-day. Thanksgiving is a 5-day box office frame. And by the end of the holiday weekend last year, Wicked had climbed already to $263 million on its way to $474 domestic. Now, Wicked was very weak overseas. It had a really big problem overseas, and it's one of the main reasons that the first film didn't make $1 billion. It's hard to get to $1 billion if you don't have global appeal. So it's very encouraging to see the sequel and its worldwide debut up 13%. Let's hope that holds. So why do you think there was an increase overseas? That to me is very interesting. Again, that's why digital and streaming are so important, because you expand your audience. And then there's a glow up when the sequel goes to theaters. I think one of the most famous examples of that is Austin Powers. A very small first film became a huge hit on home video, and then it became a huge franchise. So again, having seen the film now twice, I'm still not convinced it will make $1 billion. I think we'll either match, or there's a small chance I think it will come in slightly under the first film. I do think it's very front-loaded. I am very curious to see Thanksgiving, but I hope to be surprised. I love the film. I love the franchise. I love what the franchise stands for, et cetera, as we're about to discuss. And I think, I just still, even if it does better than the first film, though, I see it maybe in the 800 to 900 million range, like, Multiverse of Madness, just outside $1 billion, maybe. Let's see. Again, what is your prediction for Wicked for Good's box office? As for the Oscars, that Rotten Tomatoes critic score is an issue, but it's not a game over either. As I recently noted, the first Joker film had an even lower Rotten Tomatoes critic score, yet Joaquin Phoenix still walked home with the gold, only to flush it down the toilet with the sequel. That was really Todd Phillips's fault. He flipped the bird to Warner Brothers and took everyone down with him. Poor Lady Gaga. All right, so I think Wicked for Good will get a ton of nominations, just off the pedigree of the first film. Once you're in the Oscar, the It Club, it's hard to get kicked out. And it is a very strong message-heavy second film. But wins? I think that's a different matter, even in categories where it won last year. Costume design and production design, it's a very strong competitor, but there are other strong competitors this year as well. I think Frankenstein is perhaps its biggest competitor, particularly for production design. And, the Academy might feel Wicked already took home those awards. Let's spread out the love. But I continue to think that Ariana Grande will take home that Best Supporting Actress Oscar, because it's not just for this movie. I think it will be for both films. It's for the role. And the trades so far still have her as the front runner, right? Hollywood loves an ingenue. And having seen Marty Supreme on Thursday, speaking of ingenues, I think there's a chance that Ariana and Timmy could both take home Oscars this year. And those photos would set the internet on fire. And then, of course, what does this mean for Hollywood? Ooh, Wicked's a game changer, baby. As we've been discussing, we're already seeing the Ariana Grande effect, as the singer hasn't jumped to acting like this since Cher. And Cher, she got her Oscar, but even she wasn't able to become a blockbuster actress. Other actors have tried. Madonna, Taylor Swift, very difficult to do. Lady Gaga even, I'm sorry to say. What Ariana Grande has achieved here is very impressive. Might help with that Oscar campaign, might hurt it, because some people might feel she's already successful enough. What a crazy system over there. All right, so Sabrina Carpenter just passed on Disney's Tangled to partner with Universal, who of course made Wicked, for an Alice in Wonderland adaptation. And you can't get better proof that Disney has lost its chokehold on the fantasy market than one of the biggest pop stars out there right now saying, no thanks, Disney, I'm going to go with Universal. Although a lot of fans seem to be saying that these days as well. That's incredible. And Disney has had a lock on the fantasy market since there has been a Hollywood. This is similar to Disney losing its grip on animated movies. You got to step up your game, Mouse House, and not rest on your laurels. I think Disney has, for a while now, maybe taken its position a little bit for granted. Very curious to see who succeeds Bob Iger. That's going to be, we're all focused on who's going to buy Warner Brothers right now, but that's the next big business discussion after that. But also, of course, while Hollywood keeps trying and failing to get female audiences interested in male-dominated franchises, they don't care. Women don't care. You can put as many women as you want front and center in these franchises, and it's really hard to move the needle. Only Wonder Woman was the first one, was able to break through. And why? Because they brilliantly modeled it after The Little Mermaid. Alan Heinberg does not get enough credit for that. Anyway, with incredibly profitable movies, big and small, and even Taylor Swift's cinematic events, it's being proven that women will come out to the multiplex in full force for the right projects. As you might recall, Hollywood's big takeaway from Barbie's mega success was more toy movies, while some people correctly pointed out that the real takeaway there was blockbusters aimed at women and the LGBTQ crowd. Randall Park got it. By the way, I think the next one up is probably Devil Wears Prada 2. How bad do you think that movie would have to be for it not to be a mega success? I mean, that's going to be a juggernaut. I'm very interested in that. I mean, I do wonder if they can recapture that same magic. The trailer did extremely well in terms of views, but I mean, so did the Moana live action trailer, but just because people watched it doesn't mean they like it. What was your impression of the first Devil Wears Prada 2 teaser? I thought there was a little something off on it, but it's just a teaser. Where is Randall Park, by the way? I love Randall Park. He's in the new Jonas Brothers Christmas movie, which I'm saving for Thanksgiving weekend. Thank you very much. But man, Randall Park should be doing better. He was really hot there for a moment. Now let's take a look at the rest of the top 10. Well, look at that. It goes from 150 to 9. I don't know if I should laugh or cry. Probably a bit of both. You know, last year we definitely laughed at Gladiator 2 and Red 1. I can't believe that Nolan was just telling everybody that he loved Gladiator 2. I mean, clearly he's modeled his new upcoming Odyssey movie off of the first Gladiator, but he doesn't have to double down and back up Gladiator 2. I mean, I thought that movie had its moments, but overall, it was really bad. I mean, how do you feel about Nolan saying that? He's like, I don't know what he's doing. He's like, Dwayne Johnson is the actor of our generation. Oh yeah, and Gladiator 2, you're like, whoa, dude, what are you, Bizarro Nolan? But those two movies, Gladiator 2 and Red 1, they at least posted solid box office numbers. I mean, Red 1, we were like, meh, but I mean, we'd kill for a Red 1 now. Where's the Guys movie for Thanksgiving, right? Speaking of lessons, why did the influence of Oppenheimer be so short-lived? You know, where's our Gladiator? I mean, again, it was bad, but at least, you know, the Gladiator, you know, the Glicked, when we got that fabulous Gladiator 2, the musical sketch, Paul Mescal, where is your musical? But yeah, going into Thanksgiving, we just have Wicked for Good and Zootopia 2. That seems like not some good counter-programming. I mean, there's Avatar coming up. I'm sure some of you are like, what about Avatar? But that's the Star Wars Aquaman Jumanji spot of mid, you know, almost Christmas. Predator, Badlands, and The Running Man. You know, they came out in a weird space, a weird spot, like, and they just ended up cannibalizing each other. What a shame. But at least Predator can claim victory. A tiny victory, but a victory nonetheless. It's pacing about 10 million behind Alien Romulus domestic, and, you know, it seems Predator still is not a huge franchise. But Predator Badlands is still on track to be the highest grossing film in the franchise by the end of its theatrical run. Here's hoping it finds an even bigger audience on digital and streaming. I still believe in it. That was a great movie. But yikes, Glenn Powell. 65% drop in just the second weekend for Running Man. That movie's not even going to be able to hit 50 million domestic. Whew! And it continues to lag behind Now You See Me 3, which is kind of the counter-programming, I guess, to Wicked for Good and Zootopia 2. You know, now that I think about it, if it can find any available movie screens at your local multiplex, Now You See Me 3 could end up doing quite well over the Thanksgiving 5-day weekend. As for this weekend's other new releases, Rental Family and Sisu Road Rage, they didn't do quite. It's not great. But look at Nuremberg and Sarah's Oil holding on there, right? I didn't see Sarah's Oil, but as I tweeted, I think Nuremberg, it's a long movie, but I think it's really worth watching. I enjoyed it. Rami Malek's not so good, but everybody else is actually quite good in the film. And I'm looking forward to seeing how these movies both do on digital. Speaking of not being able to get women and, to a degree, LGBTQ audiences interested in male-driven content, look at the failed experiment that is Gen V Season 2. With the tragic passing of Chance Perdomo, you know, needing the season to be rewritten at the last minute, and Patrick Schwarzenegger's character, you know, not returning for Season 2, Gen V decided to go full Starlighter and has really suffered in the ratings as a result. I think they underestimate the importance of the balance of the two political spectrums. I don't know. I wonder if The Boys will regret getting as political as it has. I think for a while there, they had the perfect balance between political commentary and entertainment. And yet they've really started to veer strongly into the political commentary. You know what? I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that. So while Gen V Season 2 showed up on Nielsen's charts once or twice, this was the week of its Season 2 finale when it should have gotten a binge bump as all episodes had become available. And yet, it's nowhere to be found on even the originals chart where the bar is very, very low. Sorry, Only Murders in the Building. Why is Season 5 of Only Murders in the Building doing so poorly? That move to another location for Season 6, London, seems more and more like a really good idea. I mean, I think it is kind of the same thing all the time, but to me, it's comfort food. I like it. But while Only Murders in the Building is coming back, I'd be very surprised if Gen V gets a Season 3 renewal. And this is not a great way to go into The Boys Season 5, which is the final season, although they have other spin-offs planned. Let's hope The Boys drops an amazing first trailer at CCXP in early December. Their panel is December 6th, Saturday, December 6th, where they have a panel. In fact, they have 2 panels that weekend. Half the cast will be in Brazil. The other half of the cast will be in Tokyo at their Comic-Con. So for sure, we're getting a first look trailer that weekend. I don't know if it'll drop on the 6th. Maybe it might drop on the Friday right before, but it'll be, something's going to be there. It's very exciting. And whoo, well, you know, while it's not a superstar on Netflix's global charts in the United States here on Nielsen, The Diplomat is a big hit. I'm so happy. I love that show. And I love seeing it become more and more popular. Have you still not discovered The Diplomat? Give it a whirl. It's a very good show. Some of the best portrayal of female characters I've ever seen. And really strong male characters as well. I think it's a really great show. Can't say enough good things about The Diplomat. If you liked The Americans, well, it's a very different type show. Budget, please. All right, we're going to talk about Matthew Rhys. He's on here too. Not as well, though. All right, so Netflix is doing very well with The Diplomat and Nobody Wants This, while The Perfect Neighbor and House of Dynamite are solid movies, right? Also, this was right before Halloween because Nielsen's that far behind. And as you can see, a couple of holiday movies surged as well. But man, movies really aren't moving the needle for HBO Max. Do they really maybe have that subscriber problem that some of you refer to? But HBO's Sunday night shows managed to chart. Does HBO drive that entire streaming service? Is that why they stuck HBO back on the name? No wonder Paramount, Comcast, and Netflix are all bidding for Warner Brothers, partially because they want HBO. Over on Netflix's global charts for just last week, Frankenstein is still on top. It didn't get a big bump in its first full week on Netflix, but it held steady. It's a little up. It's a couple million up from its first weekend. I do think Frankenstein is a real threat, as I said, to Wicked for Good for production design. And I would like to see Jacob Elordi nominated. I'm going to vote to nominate him over at Critics' Choice. Timmy, Ariana, and Jacob all the same year? Hello, New Hollywood. That would be very exciting. I can't believe how much I turned around on Jacob Elordi. He could be the male Zendaya. Both, of course, from Euphoria. Look what could have been, Sydney Sweeney. Look what could have been. I certainly think Frankenstein and maybe Wuthering Heights as well. I mean, I gotta tell you, I'm suddenly a little more interested in Wuthering Heights after seeing Frankenstein. I think they're gonna really solidify Elordi in the movie space. Just as Glenn Powell is creating a vacancy. Boy, Glenn Powell's really not working out. It's interesting. Audiences don't like to be told who they should like. We will tell you. And the audiences really like Jacob Elordi. He's so powerful on social media. He's as powerful as other talent that you see. And 3 Netflix originals all had solid debuts. Merry Little Xmas, In Your Dreams, which Netflix is pushing also for a Best Animated Feature nom, along with K-pop, and Being Eddie. With shows surprisingly weak over here, with The Beast and Me debuting. Matthew Rhys, here he is. He doesn't get enough work either. I love the guy. Did you ever see his Perry Mason? He's so good. Matthew Rhys, by the way, have you ever seen an interview with him? He's Welsh with a very thick accent, and he is so funny. Sometimes when he's had a little too much to drink, but he's hilarious. He is so funny. He is like the complete opposite of his on-screen persona. And I think he should try doing a comedy. I mean, why not? He's not getting a lot of work. I'd be like, what do you have to lose at this point, Matthew? Maybe he and Randall Park could team up and do something, eh? All right, anyway, The Witcher without Henry Cavill is barely hanging on. I bet they regret shooting 2 seasons back to back. They're like, we might have just flushed our money down the toilet. And Death by Lightning just can't find an audience. I'm not surprised by that. I couldn't get past the first episode, despite really liking the cast. And I like history content. It's just not very good. Sometimes it's just not very good. But now fans are very excited about Stranger Things, getting ready for the final season, season 5. Season 1 risen to 4th place on this chart, and season 2 is now charting as well. The first 4 episodes of season 5 dropped this Wednesday, and I've seen 3 of the 4. And while I'm glad you're all excited and rewatching the show, I gotta tell you, as long as you remember who Vecna is and that he's Henry Creel, you're good to go. All right, I can't say anything else. I'm under embargo. I can't even tweet about it. I'm under social media embargo as well. Both lift when the episodes drop, which is how Netflix handles the embargoes, review, and social for all their content. As for digital, over on Apple's charts, one battle after another, still on top for the second week in a row. I still think that's the Oscar frontrunner overall, but again, now that I've seen Marty Supreme, I think it has a little competition. But Wicked, I think Wicked will get a lot of nominations, but I don't see a lot of wins in its future besides Ariana. I'm sorry to say. Wicked and even pre-sales for Wicked for Good are doing extremely well. Ka-ching! Wicked is certainly green with cash. Also, with the release of the new trailer, the Hunger Games collection went on sale for just $20, and there's clearly still interest in this franchise. I don't know if $185 million worth for the budget interest, but let's see how it works out for Lionsgate. Roofman and Good Fortune are continuing to hold on, but nobody has been able to stay in the top 10 like Mission Impossible Final Reckoning and F1. Has F1 managed to do the impossible and make the sport popular in the United States? Did you see all the stars who showed up for the Las Vegas Grand Prix on Saturday? I mean, that was pretty good social media coverage. And despite being on Disney Plus, people are still buying Home Alone, which is the first holiday movie to pop up here on the top 10 this year. Although yesterday, the animated Grinch was in the top 10 instead of Home Alone, so they're going back and forth as to who's in there. And they're both on sale, to be fair. But the Home Alones, the Grinches, and Elf continue to be the big favorites year to year. And Warner Brothers just announced an annual celebration for Elf on December 12th. Get it? 12? I think that's fun. Why not other franchises? There's May the 4th for Star Wars. Why not for other movies? And of course, Elf is huge. I watch it every year. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies. There will be events in several cities, as well as Buddy's Sing and Cheer Along edition going to theaters. I wonder how that'll work. It has trivia and some sing-alongs. Not a lot of singing in that movie. Oh, but there is that one song. It's great. I went to see that in that Notting Hill theater that I told you about, which was beautiful last year in my trip to London, and it was an amazing experience. Never get tired of that movie. What are your favorite Christmas movies that you can watch every single year again and again? So yes, it's Thanksgiving this week in the United States, and that is a major movie-going holiday. Wednesday's more of a travel day. People do go a lot to the movies on Thanksgiving, and then while there is shopping, with the Black Friday sales dropping early these days online, it frees up time to go to the multiplex. What are your Thanksgiving movie plans this weekend? And of course, families are always looking for stuff that they can watch together, which is why Wicked for Good and Zootopia 2, the new movie, are very well positioned. We'll see how they do. I'm very interested. Eternity hits theaters on Wednesday as well. I don't think that's going to do well. While awards contenders Hamnet and The Secret Agent open in limited release, as well as Netflix's Wake Up Dead Man. That's only going to be on a handful of screens. Of course, remember the first Knives Out was such a big Thanksgiving hit that Netflix paid $400 million to take the next 2 entries off the big screen. If Wake Up Dead Man had a proper Thanksgiving release, I think it could have been a real box office contender. It's a good movie. My review will be coming out in the next few days. It's a very good movie, and I would try to see it on the big screen if you can. Speaking of New Hollywood, Josh O'Connor is so good in it. All right, as for digital releases, Regretting You, Here It Comes, will be available on Tuesday, and with streaming movies, Netflix has Jingle Bell Heist on Wednesday, and Hulu has Bride Hard on Friday. How long can Rebel Wilson keep this gag going? All right, then, here it comes. Stranger Things 5 drops part 1, all 4 episodes on Wednesday. What kind of impact could that have on the movies for the holiday weekend. People might stay home and watch the 4 one-hour episodes. Also, tomorrow, the final season of Bel-Air arrives on Peacock, and CBS has the 30th anniversary special for Everybody Loves Raymond. The latest holiday version of Is It Cake drops Tuesday on Netflix, and on Wednesday, Apple TV has Prehistoric Planet Ice Age, while Disney Plus has The Beatles Anthology 2025. And this could be quite big. HBO Max is going to see if they can get their red, white, and royal blue on, but this time with sports, with LGBTQ romance Heated Rivalry. A lot of interest in this one. A lot of last-minute interest. I've been seeing a lot of chatter about it, but this is a series, not a movie. So I'm very curious to see how that performs. And HBO will also debut It's Florida Man Season 2. All right, and that's this week's Movie Math. I wonder, with Heated Rivalry and Stranger Things, I do wonder if that might have an impact, particularly on Wicked for Good, because most of you have already seen it. Interesting. All right, so what have you been watching? What do you plan to watch? And again, if you're in the United States, what are your Thanksgiving viewing plans for the weekend? Share those thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.